They had academia, Hollywood, entertainment, the celebrities, the money, Wall Street, the foundations. All they lacked was the people, because their agenda. They had lied to the American people. They had said Donald Trump was a disruptor, a disuniter, and we, under old Joe Biden from Scranton in 2020, will unite the country under moderation. And that was a complete lie. They used him as a vessel, an empty vessel, for an Obama extreme agenda of open borders with no health or background checks, 12 million illegal aliens, uninhabitable downtown of our major cities. They were overridden with crime, an attack on fossil fuels, nuclear power, a disastrous foreign policy that you could define it by the Afghanistan debacle, or the two wars in Ukraine and the Middle East, or the Chinese balloon, or China's threat to Taiwan. In addition to that, at a time when the supply chains were still stagnant, consumer demand was ascending at astronomical levels after the COVID lockdown. They printed money, and so they put fake dollars in the hands of consumers when they couldn't get goods, and the result was 9% inflation and hyperinflation, 30% in total, of staples and food, insurance, rent. So they didn't care about the middle class, and they kept telling them, you're mistaken. The border is secure, Mr. Mayorkas said. Inflation is moderate, Kamala Harris said. Bidenomics is working. People abroad have never been more impressed with the United. It was all a lie. And the people finally just waited and bid their time. And they said, we can't take this anymore. We're going to send a message no matter what you've said. But I don't think over there you wouldn't get a sense of the unreality, where you would talk to people and they really, really did believe they were going to turn on their TV sets because the New York Times Siena poll, or Nate Silver said that the Washington Post poll had been rehabilitated, or the Quinnipiac poll. They showed it was dead even, or Harris was ahead in the popular vote, or Pennsylvania was a sure thing, or Ted Cruz was only 2 points ahead, or Iowa was 3 points. And it was all completely bogus. There was no factual basis, no data for any of it. It was just a mechanism of massaging the outcome.
Did you see yourself or imagine such a decisive victory?
Did I imagine the victory?
Yeah. Such a decisive victory, yes.
Yeah, I thought he had a good chance of winning the popular vote, just because if you have a Republican candidate, and the way it works here, as you know, they lose the urban areas and the minority votes, and they count on the rural areas. And under the Obama massaging, those urban areas had reached such a, when Obama ran in 2012 against Romney for re-election, he won one precinct in Philadelphia, very dubiously so, 30,000 to 1. How can you ever make that up? When you hear that Donald Trump was going to get half of the Latino vote, or he was going to get 25% of the black vote, or he was going to get union people, or the United Auto Workers, or the Teamsters. That hasn't happened here. And this was a man that they said was racist and polarizing and hateful. And then when you saw that suburban white women were going over him at the time, we were told all they care about is abortion on demand. Yeah, you can see that he had made inroads, and you had to superimpose that fact on the reality that, unlike a Bob Dole or Mitt Romney or John McCain, he had a fanatical base in rural and small town America. And I mean, fanatical is defined by they would do anything to vote for him. If there's a hurricane in rural North Carolina, it didn't matter. They were going to get out and win him that state. Nobody had ever seen such loyalty by these irredeemables. These were the people of East Palestine, Ohio, that the administration completely ignored when they had a toxic fume. These were the people that were in the hurricane damage that they were very tardy in helping. And so I think it's a very good lesson because it's democracy and representative democracy in its best form. You know what is another irony? We were told, John, that with the National Voters Compact that the blue states were only 61 votes short of getting rid of the Electoral College, which has a lot of constitutional protections in it and has a long history of utility for both sides. And these state legislatures had voted to go around the amendment process, which they could never do. You need 2/3 of Congress, 3/4 of the state, and just have the states adhere to the national vote and reject the state vote because they were sure they were going to win the national vote, and they had won every national vote since 2004 for 20 years, and a Republican hadn't gotten 51% of the majority vote since 1988. And guess what? Donald Trump was the first person in 20 years on the Republican side to win the popular vote. He will probably be the first Republican since 1988 to win 51% of the popular vote. And all the states that swore and passed legislation, they would unconstitutionally reflect the national vote. They're not doing it. California is pledging all of its electors to Harris, who won the state, as they should. So the more that the aftermath is really making the left look pretty bad.